In remote villages where elders outnumber the young, a daily tea quietly shapes lives. Yet outside these mountains, almost no one has heard of it. Called the immortality herb, Jiaogulan is not just drunk for pleasure. Some communities credit it with producing more centenarians than anywhere else on Earth. But if a single brew could promise longevity, why has the world overlooked it? The truth begins with a ritual hidden deep in tradition and a question science cannot ignore. Hands move slowly through tangled green vines, searching for the right leaves. In these mountain villages, harvesting Jiaogulan is not a job. It is a daily act shared between generations. The plant, known locally as the immortality herb, grows wild along shaded slopes where the morning mist still clings to the ground. Elders teach children the difference between young, supple leaves and older, coarse ones. Only the tender leaves are chosen, pinched off by hand, leaving the roots and stems untouched so the plant can return the next year. The work is quiet, patient, and always done by touch and memory, not by machines. Bamboo baskets fill slowly, each leaf a small promise from the mountain. The harvesters say the best time is just after dawn, when the dew is still fresh and the leaves are at their sweetest. Children watch closely as elders demonstrate how to strip the leaves without bruising them, a technique passed down through countless seasons. The local soil and cool, humid air give each harvest its own subtle flavour, a reflection of the mountain's unique microclimate. In some families, the same patch of wild Jiaogulan has been visited for decades, always with the same careful hands. Once gathered, the leaves are spread thinly across bamboo trays. Sun drying is preferred, but when the weather turns, families use sheltered porches or low, smoky fires to finish the job. The process is slow by design. Sunlight draws out moisture, preserving the delicate compounds that give Jiaogulan its signature taste. On good days, a gentle breeze helps carry off the dampness, turning the leaves crisp and ready for storage. Children help turn the leaves on the trays, learning how to judge readiness by feel and scent, not by clock or thermometer. The ritual of drying is as important as the picking itself. Bamboo trays are stacked in shady corners, sometimes layered with cloth to protect against sudden rain. Elders test the leaves by crushing a handful, and if they crumble easily, the batch is finished. Each family has its own small variations, but the essentials never change. Patience, care, and respect for the plant. The finished leaves are stored in clay jars or woven baskets, kept dry until it is time for brewing. Throughout the process, the rhythm of work is gentle, almost meditative. Children's laughter mixes with the low voices of elders, passing down not just skills, but stories about the mountains, about the old days, about why this tea is always worth the effort. In these villages, Jiaogulan is more than a drink. It is a craft, a ritual, and a living thread that connects each generation to the land and to each other. A woman of 100 years sits on her porch, a clay jar at her side and a small cup in her hand. Her hair is silver, her eyes steady. She pours hot water over yesterday's Jiaogulan leaves, letting them steep again, as she does each midday. In her village, this ritual is as constant as the rising sun. Neighbours greet her on their way to the fields, pausing to share a cup or a story. Some ask about her age. She only smiles and shrugs. Her family says she was born before the Republic, and her childhood was marked by the sound of oxen and the scent of wild tea. In these mountain towns, stories of long life are woven into daily routines. Birthdays for the oldest residents turn into village festivals, tables lined with sweet rice, pickled greens, and pot after pot of Jiaogulan. Children bring bowls to their great-grandparents, who sit at the centre of the celebration, surrounded by 4, sometimes 5 generations. The elders talk of floods and droughts, of old wars and the first radios, but they always circle back to the simple things: clean air, quiet work, and the tea they have brewed every day for as long as anyone can remember. The villagers call Jiaogulan immortal grass. Some say their ancestors survived famine and hard winters thanks to this plant, drinking it not for luxury but for strength. The belief runs deep that daily cups of this tea help keep the body light, the mind clear and illness at bay. In the afternoons, elders gather in the shade, swirling the same handful of leaves in fresh water, sometimes 3 or 4 times before discarding them. The taste softens with each brew, but the ritual never changes. Children learn the re-steep custom early. A grandmother might hand a cup to her granddaughter, explaining that one batch of leaves should last the whole day. Waste is frowned upon, and so is rushing. The act of pouring, waiting, sipping, these are lessons in patience and respect. The youngest imitate the old, practicing the same careful motions, listening to stories about how the tea was once the only medicine in the house. Not every villager reaches 100, but in these valleys more do than anywhere else in China. Official records from Bama County in Guangxi count over 30 centenarians for every 100,000 people, 4 times the national average. Locals credit their long lives to mountain air and mineral-rich water, but the daily tea is always part of the explanation. Whether it is cause or coincidence, no one can say for certain. The stories endure, passed down with each cup, inviting outsiders to wonder if the secret to longevity is hidden in these green hills, or if it is simply a matter of living as their elders always have, one slow shared brew at a time. In the world of herbal medicine, the term adaptogen carries a particular weight. It describes plants believed to help the body cope with physical and mental stress, restoring balance without overstimulating or sedating. Gynostemma pentaphyllum, or Jiaogulan, has earned a place in this conversation not only for its folklore, but also for its complex chemistry. Over 80 distinct gypenicides, compounds structurally similar to those found in ginseng, have been identified in its leaves. These saponins, alongside flavonoids and trace minerals, are at the heart of both traditional claims and modern laboratory interest. Phytochemists approach Jiaogulan with curiosity, drawn by its chemical diversity. In the lab, extracts are separated, analysed and compared to the adaptogen criteria first outlined in the mid-20th century. A true adaptogen should be non-toxic, support the body's resistance to stress, and help maintain homeostasis. Jiaogulan's profile fits much of this mould. Early studies suggest its compounds may help modulate the body's response to stress by influencing cortisol levels, the hormone released during moments of anxiety or fatigue. One clinical trial in China found an 18% reduction in cortisol spikes among volunteers who consumed Jiaogulan extract, hinting at the plant's potential to buffer the effects of daily strain. Yet the leap from laboratory bench to teacup is not straightforward. Most clinical trials remain small, often involving fewer than 100 participants and conducted within local populations. Laboratory findings, whether a drop in stress hormones or a shift in immune activity, do not guarantee the same effects when the plant is brewed as a simple tea and shared across generations. The evidence is promising but far from conclusive. WebMD, a standard reference for Western consumers, lists Jiaogulan as possibly effective for diabetes, based on early evidence that it can improve blood sugar control. But it also notes the limitations. There is a lack of large, long-term studies and a need for more rigorous clinical trials. This cautious stance is echoed by researchers who see potential in the plant's adaptogenic qualities, but urge patience before drawing broad conclusions. The adaptogen label, while inviting, is not a guarantee. Rather, it is an invitation to further study. The story of Jiaogulan is one of bridges between folk wisdom and scientific inquiry, between the chemistry of the mountain leaf and the lived experience of those who drink it daily. Its reputation as a stress modulator is built as much on cultural trust as on laboratory data. For now, the plant sits at the intersection of tradition and modern science, its secrets revealed slowly, one compound and one cup at a time. Numbers often promise clarity, yet Jiaogulan's story in the clinic is anything but simple. In a controlled trial in China, volunteers who drank Jiaogulan extract showed an 18% reduction in cortisol spikes compared to those given a placebo. Cortisol, the hormone released in moments of stress, is a familiar culprit in fatigue and anxiety. The drop, while measurable, came from a study with fewer than 100 participants, enough to hint at an effect, not enough to settle the matter. Cardiovascular health draws similar cautious optimism. A Korean study followed 70 adults over 12 weeks as they took daily doses of Jiaogulan extract. The results were clear enough to notice. Total cholesterol fell by about 10%, and the ratio of HDL to LDL cholesterol improved. These changes, though modest, align with laboratory findings that gypenosides, one of the plant's signature saponins, can help regulate lipid metabolism. The mechanism appears to involve activation of AMPK, a molecular switch that helps cells burn fat and respond to insulin. In the lab, Jiaogulan compounds flip this switch, nudging metabolism in a healthier direction. Yet the leap from laboratory bench to daily teacup remains wide. Most trials use concentrated extracts, not the simple leaf infusions favoured in mountain villages. The scale is small, the duration short. Many studies are conducted within local populations, limiting the ability to generalise. Results from a handful of volunteers in Seoul or Shanghai may not match what happens in kitchens around the world. Phytochemists point to the complexity of the plant itself. Over 80 different saponins swirl within each leaf, their effects interwoven and not fully understood. Even when a study finds a statistically significant drop in cholesterol or a shift in stress hormones, the underlying pathways remain tangled. Some compounds may support immune function, others may have anti-inflammatory effects, but the evidence is still in its early stages. Peer-reviewed summaries like those found on WebMD place Jiaogulan in the category of possibly effective for diabetes and cholesterol. The language is careful, the claims provisional. A single trial might show improved insulin sensitivity, another a decrease in C-reactive protein, a marker of inflammation. But experts warn that these findings rest on a slender base, small sample sizes, short timelines, and a lack of large multi-center studies. A phytochemist reflecting on the data cautions against easy answers. The promise of adaptogens lies in their subtlety, not in dramatic overnight changes. With Jiaogulan, the science is a patchwork, hopeful signals, intriguing mechanisms, but no final verdict. The plant's reputation is carried as much by stories and tradition as by numbers in a journal article. For now, the evidence invites curiosity, not certainty. Each new study adds a thread, but the tapestry is far from complete. Demand for Jiaogulan has climbed steadily, reaching far beyond the quiet valleys where it was once a local secret. As word spread about its supposed benefits, buyers from distant cities and even other countries began to offer higher prices for dried leaves. In the past, harvesters gathered only what their families needed. But now, traders arrive with cash in hand, asking for more than the mountains can easily give. The difference between wild and cultivated Jiaogulan grows sharper each season. Wild plants, shaped by the shade and soil of old forests, fetch a premium, sometimes double the price of field-grown crops. This price gap tempts some to stray deeper into protected areas like Guizhou's Jiaogulan National Nature Reserve, where harvesting is supposed to be off-limits. Reports from local officials and conservation groups warn that wild stands are thinning. In some villages, harvesters talk about how the vines near their homes have become harder to find. One long-time picker says, "When I was young, you could fill a basket in an hour. Now you walk all day for half that." The export boom has shifted the rhythm of the harvest. Instead of waiting for leaves to mature, some pickers strip vines early or uproot entire plants to meet quotas. The old practice of taking only a little, leaving enough for next year, is giving way to short-term gain. In Jiaogulan, rangers have begun to patrol more often, checking baskets and tracing paths through the undergrowth. The pressure is not just on the land, but on the traditions that once kept these mountains in balance. The stakes are clear. If wild Jiaogulan disappears, so does the slow, careful way of life that has shaped these villages for generations. In the hills where Jiaogulan is woven into daily life, stewardship rests with those who have always known its worth. Cooperative leaders meet in borrowed spaces, balancing the pressures of outside demand with the needs of their own villages. Each household receives a quota, set to match what the land can safely provide, usually 2 to 4 kilograms per month. If a basket overflows, a quiet word from a neighbour or cooperative head is enough to remind harvesters of the limits. This system is less about rules and more about trust, ensuring that wild stands have time to recover and that the harvest stays in the hands of local families. Far from these slopes, finding authentic Jiaogulan is rarely simple. Supply chains offer little proof of origin. Leaves labelled as wild may have come from cultivated fields, and few packages can confirm whether the harvest was ethical or sustainable. This verification gap leaves even the most careful buyers uncertain. In response, some cooperatives have begun adding QR codes to their tea boxes, linking each batch to a specific village and season. It is a modest step, but it lets both producers and buyers share responsibility for the plant's future. For those interested in brewing the tea, the advice is straightforward. Use 2 to 4 grams of dried leaf per brew, steeped for 5 to 10 minutes. Leaves can be re-steeped throughout the day, as families have done for generations. Moderation is key, and anyone with health concerns should consult a doctor before making Jiaogulan a daily ritual. No single answer guarantees the plant's survival, but every quota, every careful harvest, and every respectful cup matters. Today, global interest in longevity surges, yet centuries-old traditions like Jiaogulan risk vanishing as wild habitats shrink and demand grows. Its future now hinges on sustainable cultivation and respect for the cultures that nurture it. In a world racing for wellness shortcuts, the real question is whether ancient wisdom can survive modern appetites. Sometimes, what's overlooked holds the answers we need most. Share your thoughts below.